Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens. And now your host, Niall Sullivan.
Hello, and welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast and this latest episode. I'm really pleased to be joined by Richard Eller once again. I'll say once again because he's become a regular on the podcast now, and I really enjoy our conversations. We're actually following up on a previous episode we did. This is sort of a part two, where we're sort of talking about the roles required for successful predictive maintenance. So we're going to go into the second part of that and some more crucial roles in that process. So I guess, first of all, Richard, it'd be good to just recap very quickly on what we discussed before, and the roles we discussed before, and then maybe the roles we're going to discuss today. So I guess over to you.
No, thank you very much, Niall. It's great to do this in two pieces. I think people usually underestimate the personalities, the characters, and the references that you need for successful digital transformation. And this is kind of touching on it quite lightly. And I think I'd have to go check back on our video, but I think on our first podcast we really touched base on a couple of characters, but I might just recap on those. And the first one that we really need for a successful project are your SMEs, your subject matter experts in the field that are able to provide the application knowledge over to Senseye or to the Senseye champion, and actually translate that information into something of value that we can basically scale up, leverage, and also capture as knowledge for all assets moving forward. And so these subject matter experts are really key to the digital transformation and the success of Senseye. And this is not a convoluted or very long process. This is usually just a couple of half an hour catch-ups where we sit down with the subject matter experts and we extract that knowledge. And so the subject matter experts, and those go hand in hand with the maintenance team on site and basically the front-end delivery guys. We briefly touched on the IT OT specialists. These are the real gatekeepers when it comes to integration and leveraging data out of the OT environment. IT has been quite secure, but now in this transition of leveraging data from the shop floor, we're getting this IT and OT basically convergence. And this character in a project is key to not just practical execution, but maintaining the security and the high level of value that we really try and focus on. So, and then we've got the visionaries. This is the person that would be within the company at a high level that is really sees the vision of changing the culture within the company that we're working with from a reactive to predictive space. And so these characters are all very, very important. And I do ask, if you want to go back and listen to that in more detail, please do. But there are three characters that I would love to catch up with you today. And what we'll talk about today is essentially the three people that we're going to cover today is your security specialist. And this is not always the same as your IT OT person, but it is somebody that is part of the process to ensure that data sovereignty, data basically IP is protected, and I'll talk about that. The next person that is quite critical to long-term adoption is what Senseye call a customer success manager. That didn't roll off my tongue when we first kicked off. I was wondering what a customer success manager was, but I really do now from a Senseye point of view, and we'll talk about that. But then the last person that I put this in as a teaser, in our first one was the sponsor, and I'll go on to explain that at the end. So yeah, those are the three topics and characters I'd like to cover today. So yeah, Niall, if you're ready, let's kick off with a security specialist.
Yeah, no, let's go. Let's go for it. And I think, so is there I guess I'll just sort of set this up with a question, if I may. I guess as the host, I probably should do something like that. But when it comes to security, I think we all know the importance of that. But is there something different when it comes to applying it to predictive maintenance versus other digital transformation or technology, let's say, use cases?
Yes, and with Senseye, it's actually a lot easier. So let's just delve into the security topic a little bit, because when we talk about security, you can't just put it all in one kind of use case. You know, we've definitely got the security at a site level. We've got security at a DMZ level. We've got the securities at cloud levels. And it really does depend on where the data sits, what the customer is comfortable with, where are they in their edge to cloud transition, because this is something that's changing very, very quickly. And so when we talk about security for Senseye, we from a platform point of view, I think Senseye do a very good job in transparency on their security. They've got a dedicated site for this where you can go and have a look at all of the tests done, and you can actually get all of the certifications checked. And this would give our users and our customers great confidence to know that, Senseye is, quite often audited by the top Fortune 500 companies with the latest security. And this is critical. I can't stress this enough. When we talk about the value of data, it is critical that this data is protected. And this is something I think Siemens have done very well on. When we started out in the condition monitoring journey, maybe before Senseye, I got very frustrated with Siemens because we were falling behind on functionality compared to our competitors and other products on the market. But what I actually found was Siemens from the very beginning put security first before functionality and patch later. And I can't stress this enough, because as our landscape is changing, you need to make sure that your product is safe out of the box. And so Siemens does a very good job in providing secure products out of the box from platform, and then bringing Senseye on top of that with the cloud with their security is a good combination. But in this successful digital transformation, I can't stress enough how important security is, not just from the practical point of view, but also in the demonstration of the assessment, so that the customer has confidence moving forward. And this is something that we do in the onboarding phase and in the scoping phase, where we'll demonstrate our security structures and procedures to make sure. But what we need at a site level is we need somebody responsible for handling the customer's data to where we take it, and basically leverage that. And that's why this person on site is quite important. And because what you want long-term transformation. And during this change, if you have any problems or if you have any setbacks, it really makes it hard to recover from. And because people are apprehensive, people are nervous, And if there's anything that feeds into that, it's important that you demonstrate, show that assessments are and were in place. And so maybe that's all I'll talk about on the security topic. It's a big one. It's something that Senseye does very well in covering, and yeah. So maybe I'll move over to the next character.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, just before you do, Richard, I guess there's one point to add to that, and it's a question often raised. It's about the cloud topic, because obviously one of the big benefits of Senseye is its scalability, and cloud play is an important part of that. But we also, on the other side, there's also sometimes some concerns around that. Is there any sort of comment you can sort of make towards that, the cloud part of it?
Look, I think that it's all around education. I mean, there are key hurdles to when cloud solutions are not on the table. You know, we might be talking about specific applications where the customer declares that a cloud solution is not possible because of X, Y, and Z. So then Senseye will sit down with those people and look at those X, Y, and Z factors and see if the mitigation factors are enough. And in my experience, 90% of the time they are, but they must be demonstrated specific to the concerns of the customer. We've got to get away from the generic response from IT is no. All right, we kind of cut through that, get to the real concerns, and respect them too. All right, there are reasons for this, and basically there are some applications where cloud solutions are just not possible. But in my experience, you just have to have that conversation openly and maturely with the key individuals making these decisions. And if it's not possible, then Siemens has many other smaller solutions that operate on site, on edge, on at a site level. But the benefits and the natural migration of cloud is basically significant. I think maybe we talk about this as a new thing, or we talk new, but when last have you had cash in your hand, or when we talk about our money, we talk about our home loans, and we talk about these are all cloud-based things, and it's basically around general adoption. I don't have a figure with me, but I know that the adoption is increasing significantly over the last couple of years, because the benefits far outweigh the risks associated. So when we talk about a cloud solution for predictive maintenance, to have this at a cloud level and to implement learnings in a 6-hour cycle across the world, across all sites, that is significant, and it's really worth investigating if that's a concern for customers.
No, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. It's interesting what you said. It's that sort of have a dialogue about it, because it's easy just to say as soon as cloud is mentioned, no. But usually there's some sort of solution where or there's by discussing it you can come to some sort of agreement or way to to not get around it, but a way to sort of proceed. Right, that's the way to do it. It's through discussion, but not just a straight no kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's also maybe just the last point there from my side. So Senseye, being a cloud-based solution, but by traditional methods, does not do raw connectivity from site. So Senseye is really an enterprise platform focused on hundreds of assets. And so the data that we are looking for is usually collected by site already, and they can declare the information that they push to us. This is a little bit different to raw connectivity from site. This is what Siemens do, and we will fill these gaps. But from a Senseye perspective, we really want to leverage the data that the customer has stored already, and they just push the data to us, and that reduces the risk significantly, because Senseye is not a closed loop control with site. It's read only, and it's based on, and the data is cleaned quite a bit before it comes in. So that's the kind of conversations that you really do need to have. And we can combine edge and cloud, and you can keep you can basically satisfy everybody here just by an open discussion, open architecture discussion, and doing a risk assessment for the customer, which we do regularly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, so let's move on to customer success then. So a term, so as a term, I mean, what does it involve, that sort of role, Richard?
It's actually one of the most apt descriptions I've seen for somebody, because they are a customer success manager. Now, this was not a name really used by Siemens prior to Senseye joining us. And we have service sales specialists, we have sales, we have many different acronyms and names. But one thing that I've learned to realize, the customer success manager is somebody that is a permanent part of a project. So I might just zoom out and then zoom back in as to the role of the customer success manager. But one thing that really differentiates Senseye is this software as a service. Now, that name gets thrown around quite a lot, but I don't think we really spend enough time in articulating what the service component is as the software. In the perfect world, the software will be doing everything, and we can just sit on the beach with our pina coladas and just not worry about it. But the reality is, it's a relationship between software and people, and providing value. So what the customer success manager does after the onboarding phase, this is once you've gone through the 12 to 14 week program, where you go from starting a project to full implementation. The customer success manager starts to synchronize with the customer and has a weekly call for about 45 minutes, and talks about what's working, what's not working, what can be dialed up, what can be dialed down, and essentially manage the success of that project. Because as we go through this cultural adoption, we might see that the customer is only dialing in maybe a couple of times a week, and the interest isn't there. And if the interest isn't there, the value is not going to be there. So we need to maintain the engagement. But then on the other side of it, we might see that the guys are dialing in every 10 minutes, and there's 20 people waiting for and working on it. So it's all about the customer success manager is involved with hundreds of different projects. And he takes those learnings from all those other projects, and not only speaks to the customer, but internally within Senseye, they share what's working, what's not working, what's new, what other sensors are available. And so I think this is something that is absolutely critical for long-term adoption when it comes to predictive maintenance. You want somebody that is part of that journey. They don't have to be the technical. They'll get the people in if they need technical or commercials or whoever, but they are the person that just you touch base with, and we make sure that we're on target to achieve what the customer has defined as the return on investment. And so this is a real deviation from what I would deem to be traditional kind of services. We kind of get in, get out. That's not the solution. That's not the way for software. It's a journey, and I'm quite fortunate enough to sit in on quite a couple of these calls and see the actual transition from our customers. So, but from your perspective, Niall, can I maybe what's a customer success manager and traditionally for Senseye, and do you know the history of how that happened?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. So from a broader, so outside of sort of, let's say, predictive maintenance or Senseye, I mean, customer success is sort of a standard or pretty standard role within SaaS businesses. So it's this handover process from the sale, and once the sale, and once it's been delivered, then handed over to customer success. That's a normal sort of SaaS thing, I think, and so it's always been a part of the Senseye business, and it's the reason why we've got such long-term relationships with customers leading into sort of the acquisition as well, because it's. And the comment I was going to make on how you outlined it, 'cause you outlined it very well, is it's really about this sort of partnership aspect. And I know it can be a bit cheesy to say this, vendor and customer working together as one, but it really is sort of like that, where because success for both sides, that's what we want, right? For differing reasons, but we want success as much as the customer does as well. We want to see it successfully deployed. We all share the big successes internally. That's a key part of it as well, where we share, where we've saved hundreds of hours of downtime or a monetary value maybe. That to us is really, really great, and is exactly what we want to see. But I think if I go back, talk about it from a broader perspective, from the Senseye perspective, it's a key part of it, because we know that it's a complex sale in the sense that lots of different stakeholders, lots of people to bring on board and then deliver it. Obviously with big rewards at the end, but for the big rewards at the end, it's having a partner there, someone to bounce ideas off, someone to sort of answer any questions you have, and we feel that's a really important process as as it's deployed and you're seeing successes. But obviously we're looking beyond that as well. So it's not just that initial project; it's looking at full plant scaling, it's looking at global scaling as well. And when you get to that stage, having a partner next to you, as I'm going to call it, a customer success manager beside you, can only help and support with that. And that's really our purpose, is to help you be successful and see further scaling for globally as well, and see it flourish globally. So does that cover what you're sort of thinking?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that definitely feeds into the last person in our mix here. And this is the sponsor. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this is actually the most important person when it comes to getting new customers on board. And I think things are changing in the way that we articulate value. All right, and we can talk about as many specifications and wins and basically demonstrate as much as we can to try and get a customer to adopt new technologies. But I think we need to respect the approach from a customer that they would often like to hear from a third party. They would actually love to hear from somebody that has gone on the journey that they're just about to embark on. This is why Senseye and Siemens, at a very high level, we work very closely with our partners, and we ask them to speak on behalf of Siemens sometimes, to share their journey. And it's not always pretty, but that's that's the reality of digital adoption. There are always going to be setbacks, and it's this real approach that our customers like, and we should always have a sponsor to actually back up what Siemens are actually trying to sell in Senseye here. And this can be as simple as, a use case, demonstrating, just a couple of simple use cases, or it can be bringing a customer into a meeting and let that customer speak to somebody that's gone down the journey, and let us step back and just reassure the customer that this is what we do, this is what we've done, and nothing changes for customers moving forward. And so this is why the customer success manager is so important, because it's beyond the technicals, it's beyond the value, it's about the relationship. And I think this is something that Senseye does very, very well, is building that relationship and trust, because customers will only buy from people that they trust, and having a sponsor involved for if they request it, is something that's available to our customers, so that we're not just doing the Siemens speak all of the time. And so that's somebody that's very, very important. What are your thoughts on that, Niall?
No, of course. I mean, it's interesting you said sort of a third party voice. Do you want to sort of go into that a little bit more detail, Richard, like the importance of that and why that's a good, yeah.
Yeah. So usually when we have a customer interested in a solution, what we would do is really try and show value in their application, and so some customers will not onboard Senseye if you can't demonstrate that it that if that it's monitored widget A in plant B in this application. And so this is where we would actually bring in a customer in a similar application if they are available and willing to talk. This is not something that we push. So for example, we did a previous episode where we're talking about forecasting, and how our customer in mining has really adopted the forecasting, and they were so impressed with their feature that they said that if there's ever a customer in mining that would like to actually talk about this and the benefits of, they would be more than willing to speak with Siemens and be an advocate of that actual application. So this is what it's about. And Siemens here in Australia recently had a Beyond 1% summit or conference, where we are trying to contribute beyond 1% in the reductions of carbon emissions. And our goal was to have that presented. The presenters on stage was to be mostly customers speaking their experience, because that's what customers want to hear, is customers speaking about their experience naturally, and that's what we try and encourage.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I guess, and I think that's something else, an interesting point there about customers, because customers talking to other customers as well. I think that's something that's sort of encouraged as well. Like, maybe not through, I mean, we've got such a global user base. It's quite tricky to have like big user sessions, in person or otherwise, but where I think there's a lot of introductions made to other customers and other users and stuff, so people can learn about different deployments and whether they've used Senseye in a slightly different way and that kind of thing as well. So I guess that's quite important to the topic as well. Whether it's and sometimes it doesn't have to be a direct contact, because it could be, like you said, these customer success managers who are talking to other customer success managers, and then we'll share the insights. Like you said, actually you said it earlier, it's about sharing their insights from previous deployments, because these are experienced people who have seen lots of deployments happen in the past.
Yeah, I was actually fortunate enough to join CSL, which is the Siemens distributor in New Zealand, along with Weidmuller and a couple of other products. And they actually put on an event where they bring all system integrators into one room and talk about the latest technologies. I absolutely love that. And I really got invigorated as to everything that's happening at the moment. But the thing that I love the most about it, and it's a simple analogy, but if you think about when somebody goes for an interview, or when you go for a dance rehearsal, not that I've done that, but if you think about the situation where you've got 20 people sitting in a room competing for one opportunity, what do those people usually do? Those people usually try and hide, they try and not share their experience, because they don't want to lose that leverage that they feel they might have. But imagine if those 20 people in the room actually got together and actually collaborated on all of their experience. Imagine the value that that team and group would provide, well beyond the one little opportunity that that one person's going to win there. And I feel that's really where we are moving in this open source, in this open architecture with regards to information, is that we need to collaborate. We really need to embrace that kind of thinking where let go on the little bit that we have, and kind of share and focus on the bigger value. Maybe that was a little bit out there, Niall, but that's essentially what I get out of these, be it a partnership within a company where, these are people collaborating, but it can be external too, where companies come together and they think, how can we do this better for our customers? And that's actually where you see great evolution.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. No, and always be out there, Richard. It's always good to go off into little tangents and other places as well, then come back to the mothership, as it were. 'Cause there's nothing wrong with that, because we like to be a bit of a broad church on here with lots of different areas to cover, so never worry about that. So I think we covered these key roles really well, and we're coming up to time again. But as usual, before we finish, I mean, as we normally do, is sort of summarise at the end some sort of key takeaways from this. But maybe as this is the second part, that one of two parts, you could just do an overall summary from both parts about these roles, and just some final thoughts on those, Richard, might be useful.
Yeah, no problem at all, Niall. And what I think is important here is strategy. All right. So when we talk about adopting new technologies, we talk about anything, it's important to have a strategy and define what your goal is. And once you've done that, then you know what your goal is. You've gone beyond the why you need to do it. Then you get into the how. And this is really what we have been talking about in the last two sessions. I really encourage anybody that is listening to actually go back and listen to the podcast and reflect on those personalities in your organization. Are they there? Are they not there? Are too many of them there? Are there too little of them there? And basically strategize the how are you going to be successful. And you talk about all of those characters, because there is value in every one of those. You do get some individuals that sit across 3 or 4 of those hats, and this is becoming a lot more prevalent. But I do encourage organizations to lean into all of their skill sets. They don't have to create these opportunities. They don't have to create these heads. They just need to go find them and give them 10% room to move and basically leverage the skills that they have. And so if I can just close there, these last two sessions was really focusing on how to be successful by adopting the correct characters and skill sets, and not just thinking this is going to be one person's job, because we're going for long-term adoption and change. And I might just finish there on that, Niall. So thank you very much, Niall. Very much appreciated. I know we've gone through quite a couple of characters, and I'm sure we've missed a few. So if they are, I don't know what kind of feedback that anybody can provide. But yeah, please do provide some feedback if you have on characters we have missed.
Yeah, no, exactly. We can certainly cover that in a future episode as well. I guess all I was going to add from my perspective, so, and I should have mentioned this before when we talked about it, but the customer success side of things. So we actually did an episode with one of our colleagues, Peter O'Hara, who is a customer success manager. So actually we actually sort of went into the role in a lot more detail. So I'll put that in the show notes, because I think that'd be interesting to some people as well. But for today, I guess, sorry, Rich.
No, definitely, Niall. I actually, on my LinkedIn post, I actually promoted that conversation, because I think I wrote something along the lines of, one of the greatest things about working for Siemens is the access to people passionate about what they do, how they do it. And Peter is definitely one of those characters that moves beyond the technicals. He really, if he doesn't understand something, he'll go find it. But he's worked in so many different applications that when you bring him into your success, he's definitely going to provide a lot of value there. And I love that conversation that you had there with Peter. That was great.
No, brilliant, absolutely. So, but no, I think that closes us off nicely today. So thank you once again, Richard. It's always a pleasure having a chat with you on the podcast. Like I said, it feels more like a chat than an actual, I won't call it an interview, because it's definitely more of a chat, which says a lot about how, the rapport and everything like that, the great rapport we have. So, but yeah, we'll finish for today. Thank you, Richard. I'll put some of those episodes in the show notes. I'll put part 1 of this and the customer success episode Richard was referring to there. But for today, thank you everyone for listening, and see you on the next episode.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels, and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.